One of the top recommendations I make to people, it might be the first time I've met them as a new patient, it might be, their 10th year coming to see me to manage their chronic illnesses. We always talk about processed food, and sometimes you might hear this as ultra processed. And most of the time when I bring this subject up, people don't really have any idea what I'm talking about. I'll ask them a couple questions. They've heard the term, but they don't know what it means. And that's one thing that I want you to know, is that there's a lot of language out there that sounds like it means something and it doesn't mean anything very useful. Let me throw out a couple. So heart healthy, right? You'll see that on labels, you'll see symbols that indicate that, and it's a marketing ploy to get you to buy the product. But the truth is that you don't really know if that particular product is heart healthy. Another one is plant-based, okay? People talk about plant-based diets. I've seen a lot of research lately saying plant-based diets shown to be healthier than, whatever else. The problem is that sugar is plant-based. It comes either from the sugar cane or from the sugar beet. It's plant-based. So if you just go with the commonly understood definition of plant-based, you're not really gonna get anywhere. By the way, apple juice, which has more sugar in it than a can of Coke, is also plant-based. So be careful about jargon or catchphrases or things that probably are oversimplified and not really telling you what this means. Process is another one of those words. So in its simplest form, processed means taking something from its natural form and converting it to another form for consumption. So if I pull a carrot out of the ground, does washing the dirt off count as processing? Yeah, probably not. But does peeling it and cutting it and boiling it count as processing? Yes, that is processing. There are other things that may be happening that you don't know are happening that are processing. So when you buy a bag of baby carrots, those might have been treated with radiation to kill any bacteria. That doesn't harm the carrot at all. It doesn't really change its composition. The radiation's no longer there. It doesn't affect you. I'm just telling you there are other things that can happen that count as processing. So the simplest way of understanding it is processing is taking something from its natural form and turning it into something for the human to consume. All cooking in your home, in the kitchen, counts as processing. Now, raw food is not inherently better for us than cooked food. That's not true. And there are some things about cooking that actually make the food better for us. For instance, when you cut cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, things like that, they release chemicals that make that food healthier for you. Kind of interesting. Now you could say, well, you would get that just from biting and chewing it. This is true. I'm just pointing out that cutting is not doing nothing, and sometimes there's subtle ways in which it can improve that food. So I'm not talking about just cooking something necessarily. I don't love asparagus out of a can. Some people do. When you take the asparagus out of the can, you can tell that it's asparagus. You don't scratch your head and wonder what it is, and you wouldn't imagine that it was something else. It's still asparagus. A couple more examples. An avocado, okay, we all know what an avocado is, and most of us know what guacamole is, and we know that it's just a pureed or a mashed up avocado. When I go to the grocery store and I go to my produce section, I can buy a pre-made guacamole container, and I can tell earlier in the day it was fresh avocado and garlic, onion, tomato, and now it's guacamole. That's minimally processed. But I can also go to the cold chest and get a bright green container that I'm kind of suspicious how much avocado it actually contains in it. I can't tell that it's in its original form. I would call that a highly or ultra processed food. I stay away from that one. I'm not going to tell you that this is a perfect way to tell the difference. I'm going to tell you that if you follow this way of thinking, you're not going to go wrong very often. Let me give you another example. Spam. Now, spam has gotten a little bit of a bad rap in my opinion because we call it processed meat. But I would like to point out that when you open a can of spam, you can tell that it's meat. It's formed in the shape of the can, that's true. But if you look into the ingredients, it's actual pork and actual spices and salt and water. It is no different than when you make a pork roast at home. If you were to take that pork roast and use those bear claw things to shred it up, and if you were to put that pork roast into a Tupperware Tupperware container and put it in your fridge, what would you call that when you pulled it out? It looks pretty much like Spam. So my point is that not everything that's processed is ultra processed, and not everything that's processed is bad for us. I hope you found this really helpful, and if you did, please subscribe to this page because there's a ton more videos out there.